Well, in my pursuit of finding the best neighborhoods in all of Hampton Roads, there are some really good options that I really like in Chesapeake that are different price ranges, different sizes. Well, today we're going to talk about one that I think is one of the best bang for bucks in the price range. It is Forest Lakes. It's in the south part of Chesapeake, and we're going to talk all about where it is, what the houses are like in there, the school district, what types of areas are around there, what life is like in the neighborhood, as well as access to other things. So if you do plan to move to Chesapeake and then choose Forest Lakes, you'll have a good perspective on what it's like before you move here. I'll also mention a couple drawbacks I think there are going to be things you may have to consider if you do move to Forest Lakes. It might help you determine if you want to move here or not. Well, let's take a zoom out and show you where Chesapeake and Forest Lakes is, and then we'll talk about the neighborhood itself. So you got Chesapeake, Virginia Beach, Norfolk, Chesapeake, the south part of the Hampton Roads area here. Well, I talk a lot about the South Chesapeake area because I do like that area a lot. I do think it's a big plus for schools, for style of living, just quality of life, the houses themselves, all that stuff. Well, in South Chesapeake, there are some spots that I think I like better than others. In South Chesapeake, on the very south part, you kind of notice that if you look out, zoom out, you'll see a lot of rural as you go further down south, all this green. Well, the further you get closer to that green, you'll feel like you're kind of more in the rural part of Chesapeake. Well, what I like to do is find where's that line? What's on the outer edge of the neighborhoods that are right close to that green, to where those types of houses might make you feel like you're tucked away, you're away from the rest of the hustle and bustle. But if it's in a neighborhood, you won't feel like you're necessarily in the rural country either. And so some people do like that balance. And this is one thing that Forest Lakes has. I'm going to show you, zoom in where it is. You see where this green is. So just north of it, here is Forest Lakes right here, these two circles that connect. So zooming out, you'll see that it's close to a couple of main roads, Johnstown Road and Cedar Road, which I've talked about a lot in past videos. But also it's close to Route 168, which is the bypass that connects all the way up to Norfolk and Virginia Beach. So if you notice, again, it's right in the very corner. And one thing I like about Forest Lakes is that so I'm going to change this to the aerial view. You see that it's called Forest Lakes, the neighborhood. This neighborhood has some of the most densely populated trees in the neighborhood. So you see where the dark splotch is? Look at the rest of Great Bridge. Great Bridge has a decent amount of trees, but Forest Lakes itself is even darker, deeper by multiple shades because there are so many trees in the neighborhood, and it's right as you turn into the neighborhood. And there are also a couple of lakes, one of which has multiple houses around it, which that also adds a nice vibe to this neighborhood because it really, as you go further away from the main town or even away from Virginia Beach, you don't really see too many houses that are on lakes, but also are in very wooded areas and also kind of in a rural part of town. It's just a very interesting combination. So if you zoom in on Forest Lakes, you'll see one noticeable thing is a ton of cul-de-sacs. And that's one of the benefits of being in Forest Lakes is you have a lot of very quiet streets because until you want to drive into a cul-de-sac, you have no reason to go there. So there's less and less traffic in a lot of these streets. There are a couple of main roads like Forest Lake Circle and Drive. Other than that, it's a lot of cul-de-sacs. And so I do think that's also a big benefit. If you have kids and you just want to just relax and not have to worry about how many cars are going up and down the roads, having these cul-de-sacs is a big deal. What I also like too about this neighborhood is that it is accessible to different directions. So if you look out, there are three roads actually two roads, but three access points to those roads. You see East Street on the south part, also Tulip Drive on the west side of Forest Lakes, but mainly Forest Lake Boulevard is coming off of Waters Road. The reason this is important is because Waters Road is a connecting point between Johnstown Road on the south side, which goes down to kind of more like the central-ish, like kind of the traditional South Chesapeake feel part of Great Bridge, and also going north towards Cedar Road, which is over towards the Grassfield School District, over towards the Veterans Bridge where the toll is. You can go up and down Cedar Road where there are a lot of stores, strip malls, and you can do the same thing over in Battlefield Boulevard over where Johnstown Road is, but it's just you've got different options. You have one area is newer than the other, so having that in addition to being kind of tucked away in the corner is a nice combination because you don't feel like while you're away from everything, you don't have to jump through a whole bunch of hoops to get out into the rest of the city. What kind of houses are in Forest Lakes? Well, one of the reasons I like Forest Lakes is there are a lot of houses that have brick. There are brick houses. Some of them are vinyl, but a lot of them are brick. Now, brick in this time period is not brick like you would think, okay, it's a brick house. It was built out of brick. That's not how a lot of brick houses are, even from the 60s on, newer. It's more just like an elaborate vinyl siding. It's just a nicer version. And I think that does add to a nice aesthetic for those houses that are brick. But again, just keep in mind what it is. I do like the combination of the lot amount of trees and also the brick. It's a nice combo, visually speaking. Now, one of the cool things about Forest Lakes too is that it has different varieties of types of houses in here. You've got some that are kind of the more traditional 90s style houses. You got some a little bit more contemporary, a couple in here. They're also a little bit, that feel a little bit more newer. You'll see some that are also that feel more rural, like those country style houses that kind of out in the middle of like in a very rural city. You'll find also some very unique custom houses too. One of the houses actually has some Williamsburg vibe to it, those colonial feel. So you've got that. You've got other custom houses. I believe it was either Alonzo Mourning or Alonzo Mourning's parents owned a house in Forest Lakes, and you can even see that it was a custom house. And you can even tell that the house was designed for tall people. Big garage, big tall ceilings. They owned the house in here. And it was again a custom style house, which I do like the idea of having custom houses in this neighborhood because it eliminates that kind of that cookie cutter vibe that you'll find the same house over and over and over again. That's not what Forest Lakes is, which is one of the reasons why I like it. And one of the biggest reasons I like Forest Lakes is the reason it was named Forest Lakes is because it has so many trees in it. So if you look on the map, if you zoom in and you do a drive through, you'll see so many trees. It is loaded and loaded with multiple types of trees, huge ones. They tower over streets. They tower over the houses. Now that can be a drawback to some people because the leaves fall. They can fall and land on the roofs. They can just be frustrating, but it has a very nice aesthetic. I'm much more of a tree guy than a not tree guy. So I will kind of take the good with the bad when it comes to that. And there are other neighborhoods nearby that have similar flares to them because of the house styles. But this one has more brick. It has more forest. It has more trees. It even has nice width roads, which I think is an underrated thing in neighborhoods because there aren't too many neighborhoods that have sidewalks. And if you don't have sidewalks, but you don't have wide roads, it makes it frustrating to walk your dog or go for a walk with your kids or, having them out in the streets. But like I said, there are a lot of cul-de-sacs in the neighborhood, but even having these wide streets does make it feel comfortable in the neighborhood. And you'll see too, a lot more contemporary feels as you walk in. So as you walk in, like the entryways, a lot of them are the more open. So it doesn't feel super compartmentalized and crowded. But at the same time, there are some, because these houses were built in the late 80s and early 90s. And so you'll find the kind of that transition where you'll find still maybe more compartmentalized rooms, maybe 8-foot ceilings in some cases, but also then opened up towering entryways. So a lot of these houses are just designed differently. And again, I like that variety. So again, net positive to me, even though not all the houses feel super contemporary. The lots are mostly also between like a third of an acre and almost a half an acre. So you even have, for the most part, a little bit of a space between you and your neighbor. Now, they're not all like this. You'll find some on occasion that'll be pretty close together, so that can be a drawback depending on which house that you find. But there are 16 houses also on the lake in the back of the neighborhood. So those are the ones, I'd say, of all of them, just some great views. It's kind of an exclusive feel as you look out onto the lake because you're one of the only 16 houses in there. And really, there aren't too many neighborhoods with a lot of lakes in them in Chesapeake at all. And in Forest Lakes, you've got a lot of larger houses. So you'll see a few that are under 2,800 square feet, but most of these are going to be 29 and up, 3,000, 32, 3,500 square feet. Some are larger than that, bigger ones. 2-car garages are pretty common, as well as you'll see a larger majority of 5-bedroom houses. And that's often a searched thing in the Chesapeake area because of that extra, because you've got a lot of kids, you've got school district you're focusing on, need that 5th bedroom. So having a lot of options like that in Forest Lakes is a big deal too. And also, this area has an HOA. It's not a very expensive HOA, but it does have one. It has a playground. It's got a clubhouse. It's got some common areas. I wouldn't say it's the cheapest that you'll find for 5 bedrooms in Chesapeake. You'll find some that are like in the $100,000, $50,000 less. But I think for what you get types of house-wise, size of house, and potential for 5th bedrooms, and also in the south part of Chesapeake in general, I do think that this is one of my favorite neighborhoods, all things considered, including the aesthetic that you'll find anywhere in Chesapeake. Now, the price ranges, you'll find on the low end, you'll see them in the low 6s. But especially the dated ones like built in the 90s that haven't been updated since, you'll see them in the mid 6s, upper 6s, and then going into the 7s. You'll even see some larger ones going closer to 8 at this point too. So they're kind of, as you get renovated and larger, you're going to find they're going to be pushing that value up a little bit. Now, I've seen houses in the area in the city of Chesapeake more expensive than this for the size and for the school district. That's one of the reasons why I like it. Is a nice balance if you do want that larger house, 3,000, 3,500 square feet and up, 4,000, and you want the school district, you want the kind of the rural suburb combo thing going on, and you want the trees, you want that feel of that type of neighborhood. this is one of my favorites, and I do think this is one to focus on if you do plan to move to South Chesapeake and need that extra space. Now, for your common day-to-day shopping and what you do on a regular basis, the main places to go shopping are going to be off of Cedar Road. You got Las Gaviotas, there's a food line right there, and also some restaurants up and down. I like Burrito Perdido a lot. I've talked about that one a lot. I just had Burrito Perdido a couple days ago. And also going over towards Battlefield Boulevard, there are some strip malls up and down there. There's a Kroger right here next to Battlefield and Cedar Road. Then going further south, you'll get over towards Etheridge Manor. There's a Harris Teeter right off of Hanbury Road in this shopping center here. So you're not too far away from that, maybe about 12 minutes away. So you're not close to a bunch of stuff necessarily, like 5 minutes away, but you're not more than 10 or 12 minutes away from essentials and a lot of shopping and strip malls as well. Now, going to Virginia Beach and Norfolk, you're going to be coming from Forest Lakes over towards the bypass or towards the Veterans Bridge, which is the toll road. We're going to talk first about the bypass because this one's interesting because it doesn't require a lifting bridge, which is kind of a problem in the south part of Chesapeake, or there's no toll either. So you come up here, you can get to the rest of Virginia Beach, Chesapeake, and Norfolk, and anywhere else once you get from the bypass to the rest of the 64 interchanges. That's probably the quickest way to get around town. You can also go do the Veterans Bridge way, which I'd say might be even quicker. But again, the drawback is you've got a toll. So a couple of dollars each way can be frustrating if you want to go like the quick way if there's no traffic going that way as opposed to going towards the Chesapeake bypass. So personally, I'm more of a fan of the Chesapeake bypass just because I don't have to pay the toll and it gets me to other parts of Chesapeake that I would personally like to be around, including Greenbrier. But those are two options. The most common options are those two. You can also go up Battlefield Boulevard to the rest of Chesapeake as well, but that makes you cross over the Great Bridge, which does lift regularly, and so that can be frustrating to get stopped at, even including all the traffic around Battlefield Boulevard and Cedar Road. In addition to that, of course, you got Greenbrier, which is about 16-ish minutes away. You've got the Greenbrier West, which has, like the Lowe's, Home Depot, even a Kroger, a real nice Kroger over in North Pass, Walmart and Sam's Club over in the corner near Wood Lake Drive right here. There it is. So you got a bunch of options for shopping. They're just not all going to be very, very close within like 5 or 6 minutes, but they will be within maybe 10 to 12 minutes or 15 minutes. Now, the school district is Grassfield. So you got Cedar Road Elementary, you got Great Bridge Middle, and you got Grassfield School District. And so Grassfield's one of the top ranked school districts in Chesapeake and almost actually even in Hampton Roads. So you're going to have that school district box checked pretty easily if you go to Forest Lakes, especially for the high school district. Now let's go over the drawbacks of living in Forest Lakes. One of the things is going to be the fact that it's in the corner of the city, like in the corner of the suburb part. So while you might not feel like it's that long, the fact you're in this corner can feel like to other people that it's kind of far. So getting people to come to you can be a little bit more of a challenge, possibly. Another one, of course, is the price. If you're trying to get a little bit cheaper, you're talking 6s and 7s mostly in here. So I'd say it's healthily priced. I wouldn't say it's outrageous for what you're getting, but it's not the cheap end either. Now, the big thing that I think people don't focus on that I think, especially if you're surprised by this, it can become a thing, which is, I'm going to show you on the map. As you zoom down, you'll see Forest Lakes, but along the edge of Forest Lakes, there's this green space, right? It's almost like someone cut a path all the way through these yards. Well, what is that? You zoom in here, you almost see like right here. You see that little spot there? Look at this. There it is. You have power lines, those towers that are up built on in the yards on the back sides of the neighborhood, going all the way across through the neighborhood towards the edge, towards the country. So some of these houses, a few of them on the side of the neighborhood. I mean, see right there, on the very side, on the edge, that road between Forest Lakes Drive and then Washington Drive, as you go across, those houses on the very south side of the neighborhood, you might find that your house, you might be butted up close against one of those big towers. Personally, that would bother me. I don't have any exact proof as to whether yes or no the electricity can cause health issues, and that's part of the problem that people find is that they think that could be a thing. I don't actually know if the answer is yes or no. Problem is not necessarily that as much as it is the perception of it being a problem. When you go into these houses and you're surprised and you're not expecting to see the big tower that's close to your house, you can see it, or maybe it's really close to your house. That can be a big turnoff to buyers. For me, it's more of an aesthetic thing too. Like I don't want to be in a house where my backyard has or is close to one of those towers. So that would bug me, and I think that just drives away more buyers for those specific houses. Now, the further away you go from there, not as big of a thing. People don't really focus on that as much, but once you're right next to it, it can be, I think, a drag on resale. So at the very least, because again, do your research on the actual health concerns, if there are any or not, to having a tower like this in or close to your yard or your house. So if you have any other questions about relocating to Chesapeake, Virginia Beach, or all the areas in Hampton Roads from Virginia Beach through Williamsburg, let me know. It's what I do. I love helping people relocate to the area. So if you have any questions, I have my contact information in the description. You can email me, call me, or text me at any point, and I'll do whatever I can to help you relocate to the area. And I will see you on the next video.